Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Glory bolt action video. In today's episode, we are going to be casting our eye over some special rules that Warlord Games has revealed for Bolt Action 3rd edition. And let me tell you, there are some real doozies in this article. The more I hear about Bolt Action 3rd edition, the more hyped I get for it. And these special rules are no exception. So without further ado, let's not mess around any further. Let's fix bayonets and charge right into today's episode. Good news, everyone! Warlord Games is now an official sponsor of the Mordian Glory channel. Warlord Games are the creators of the fantastic World War II game system Bolt Action, along with many other incredible tabletop games. And they have been kind enough to give the Mordian Glory channel an affiliate link. If you follow that link down in the description below, not only can you get your hands on some truly awesome models, but you will also be supporting the channel. A massive thank you to Warlord Games for supporting the channel, and now let's get back to the video. Now, everything that I'm going to be talking about today can be found in the latest intelligence report that has been put out by Warlord Games. And you can find a link to the article down in the description below if you want to peruse this at your own leisure. But with that said, now let's dive into this article. So Warlord Games starts off by saying that Bolt Action has been around for a long time, and they acknowledge that over the many years that this game has been out, there have been a lot of additional rules that have been added, and the vast majority of these special rules have been added in campaign books, some of which are pretty obscure. And to make matters even more confusing, sometimes a special rule has been released in one campaign book and it's been released in another campaign book with a different iteration of it. Maybe it's an update, or maybe it's just been tweaked slightly to represent the uniqueness of that scenario or historical battle. But however you slice it, there are lots and lots of special rules, and there are lots of different versions of each special rule, and this can be quite confusing. I have to say, I really like that Warlord Games has acknowledged this, and I like that they are fixing it. It is another one of the complaints that myself and other people had against 2nd edition towards the end of its lifespan, that there were all sorts of different variations of rules, and just consolidating all of this is going to make things a lot easier and a lot smoother. Moving on, Warlord then states that the special rules are broadly split into 3 different categories. You've got unit special rules, weapon special rules, and special rules that affect the table or the game. And the latter are optional for use in games, allowing you to tailor your battlefield experience exactly how you like it. So essentially, you're going to have special rules and weapon rules, and those are non-negotiable. These are abilities and things that units are going to have. But then for the game special rules, those are going to be optional. And I imagine that's going to cover things like night fighting. Some people love playing with night fighting in Bolt Action, and other people just don't go near it. So keeping that as an optional thing is a very good idea. But my big question, what I'm most curious about is this going to affect things like prep bombardment? Prep bombardment is a little bit of a controversial rule at the moment in Bolt Action 2nd edition, because not both players are guaranteed to get it. Essentially what happens at the beginning of the game, both players roll a dice, and on a 2-up, they get a prep bombardment, and that allows them to maybe do a little bit of damage and sprinkle a lot of pins across the enemy force. But if you roll a 1, you just start off the game on the back foot, and some people, including myself, have had games where you've just lost the game because you had to spend the first turn actually rallying everything and your opponent didn't because you just rolled a 1. So I hope that prep bombardment is one of those optional rules, and I hope if it is in the game as an optional rule that it's not a 2+, that it is it just happens. But if it is on a 2+, I'll probably be leaving that one at home, except for some of the more fun or narrative games that I play. Of course, all of that is speculation. We'll have to wait and see what happens when 3rd edition drops properly. Moving on, Warlord Games does have a bit of a note regarding weird and wacky units and how they will always have their own special rules to represent them on the tabletop. I do like that. On the one hand, it does give you the option of having extra levers to pull, and it gives Warlord Games a bit of flexibility if they do want to get a bit creative and wacky with the unit. On the other hand, I hope that this is done for very much edge cases and is not the norm where every unit ends up getting a slight variation of basically what should be a standard special rule. I know we're talking about bot action today, but just talking about Warhammer for a moment. One of my biggest criticisms of the current edition of Warhammer 40k is that you have multiple units which should have the same rule, but they don't. It's like very slightly different. And it's meant to be a universal special rule, but it's not. So I hope that Warlord Games uses this ability, this functionality to add an extra level of craziness and an extra unique rule to, like I said, edge cases. For example, if you've got like rugby teams, because there are rules of rugby teams in like second edition at the moment where they like run around start like tackling people, or like really crazy like Wunderwaffen that the Germans came up with. I hope it's kept for those units like the mouse and stuff like that, and it's not, we don't end up with a situation where you've got two relatively similar and normal units, but one has an extra special rule just cause. But all of this has been pretty high level so far. Now let's get into the nitty gritty with the first special rule that has been revealed, and this is engineers. Units of engineers are equipped with explosives and other specialized gear for destroying battlefield fortifications and defenses. To represent this, when a unit of engineers assaults a building, the defenders cannot benefit from the defensive position bonus. In addition, engineers have several advantages when it comes to the rules for minefields and other fortifications. First thing that I love about this special rule is there's a bit of flavor text to it. It's not just in a strange sort of legalese, rules as written, rules lorry kind of way, just monotonously explaining like a unit of engineers, a unit of the engineer special rule is a unit of engineers. Engineers are engineers. You find that with like 40k. No, it's like units of engineers are equipped with explosives and other specialized gear. It's like it's adding that flavor, it's adding that immersion. It's just a couple of lines, but it makes the difference. Being able to remove the defensive position bonus could be really big. Right now, that means that opponents fight at the same time, or combatants fight at the same time in melee. Getting rid of that is pretty huge, because in second edition, and this very well may be different for third edition, but in second edition, almost anything can be a defense position. On top of a hill, defense position. Behind a small fence, defense position. In a bunker, defense position. Anything and everything could almost be a defense position. Going round a boulder that you can't go directly over, defense position. So engineers being able to get round that could be really, really big. It's almost like close combat ignores cover. Now, speaking of close combat, Warlord have teased us a little bit. They've edged us. They're giving a bit of blue balls, because they say that for more detail on exactly what this rule does, you'll have to wait for the close combat rules reveal in a few weeks' time, but rest assured it's part of a wider change. So we are going to get a sneak preview of close combat, which is cool, and I think for a lot of people that is going to be a biggie. Every Japanese player right now is on the edge of their seat, and they are hoping and praying to the God Emperor of Japan that Warlord Games does not completely screw over or nerf their Banzai and close combat rules. Close combat is very, very brutal in bot action at the moment. I suspect Warlord Games will want to tone it down a little bit. How they do that is going to be big, and I hope that when they do bring the article out, not only do they cover close combat, but they also do touch upon like the Japanese and how maybe their rules are going to change as well in the new edition. Next up, we have got a preview of the Fieldcraft special rule. These units are rigorously trained and equipped for traversing different types of difficult terrain, and therefore treat rough ground as open ground instead. Great special rule, simple and straight to the point, no longer worrying about whether you're a jungle warfare specialist or ultra-fit mountain troops. It just covers everyone. Whatever terrain you are covering, if you've got Fieldcraft, you can treat it as open ground. Simple, effective, well written, easy to understand. I like this one a lot. I guess my big question with Fieldcraft is, how is it going to interact with what is currently classed as dense terrain? Because dense terrain, you have to be very careful creeping up on it because you're not sure what's in there. Will Fieldcraft allow people to get around dense terrain, or is dense terrain still going to be something that can slow you down quite significantly? That's the big question for me. But Warlord have saved the best and possibly the most impactful special rule reveal till last. And this is the anti-tank gun special rule. Anti-tank guns are designed to accurately target vehicles through improved sights. All anti-tank guns, from light to super heavy, including those mounted on vehicles, get an additional +1 modified to hit when shooting with a fire order, including ambush and reaction fire. This is massive. This is big. This is huge. Because combining this with the to hit modifiers and the shooting phase that Warlord Games revealed in the last article makes anti-tank guns phenomenally accurate. Remember, there is no penalty for shooting over long range now. Remember, there is no penalty for shooting at someone in cover now. Now they get a cover save. If you have an anti-tank gun and it just stays still and it just shoots at an enemy vehicle, it's going to be hit on 3s. Because you hit on base 4+ now. Anti-tank gun gives you +1 to hit. That's a biggie. That is a biggie. That's going to make anti-tank guns feel much more lethal. And I think it's a needed change. Some people are not going to like this one. Some people are going to say anti-tank guns, too buku, they've gone too far. But I like this one because right now in 2nd edition, in the sort of current edition, soon to be the old edition of Bolt Action, no one takes anti-tank gun teams. No one. You might see the occasional German player taking a flak 88 because it's badass. In a similar camp, you might see the occasional Brit player taking a quarter pounder, a 17 pounder, just because, well, you always see people take the 25 pounder in Brit armies because it's got the explosive, but you don't see it taking it for the anti-tank option. You do sometimes people taking 17 pounders because, again, they're cool. But outside of that, no one takes them. And most vehicles which have got anti-tank guns, people don't bother with either. It's like, oh, I'll just take HE instead. This is a really big change. It's a really impactful change. And personally, I think it is a necessary change. Could there be a risk of it swinging the pendulum too far the other way? Possibly. But I would rather see anti-tank guns on battlefields than them not being on battlefields. And I think that bolt action is going to feature more vehicles in general. We've seen that if you want to include tanks in your army, you're going to need at least 2 of them anyway, because you're going to need one for the command vehicle, one for the actual vehicle in your tank platoon. So I think we're going to see bigger games of bolt action, and we're going to see more tanks in bolt action. And as a result, anti-tank guns will need to be able to pop those tanks effectively. Otherwise, tanks could start overrunning battlefields. So I think the anti-tank gun is a good change. I do understand why some people are both hyped and concerned for this change, but personally, I think it was necessary, and I think it's going to be good for the game. Now that just about covers all of the revealed special rules, but Warlord Games has teased us once again with some extra optional rules that you can find towards the back of the rulebook. So I'll just read out the bit from the article. Finally, we move towards the back of the rulebook and the whacking great optional rules section. Here you'll find everything you need to customize your game's bolt action to represent virtually any scenario imaginable. Beach landing at night with minefields aplenty? Check. Fighting through the fortified ruins of Stalingrad in a blizzard? You bet. Creeping through harsh jungle terrain whilst checking for booby traps and the enemy? All in blistering heat? No matter the situation, there's a set of rules for it. And those are just a few examples. Think of this section like a great big toolbox for making bolt action into exactly what you want it to be. Whether you've got a gorgeous handmade table that you want to feel as good as it looks, or you want to add some extra spice and variety to keep you and your opponent on your toes. Now let me be honest with you guys. I am a bit of a whacker. I am a bit of a competitive player. And my normal natural inclination is to stick to the core rules, stick to the balanced rules. But this very well may be the most interesting and the thing that's got me most excited in this article, because I like the way that these optional rules have been just basically put as a toolbox. There's just a list of optional rules that you can just add into your scenarios. And I think this is going to make for both very good casual and narrative games, but also it's going to be good for competitive games. I can definitely envisage a situation where, similar to 40k, a rules pack, a mission pack is put together, and by the competitive bolt action scene, and by the tournament bolt action scene, which is very much growing and expanding at the moment, and people going, okay, mission 1 is this scenario combined with this terrain, combined with this map, and you've got these optional rules. I think there's going to be loads of potential for all sorts of bolt action players here. And I think Warlord Games has kind of touched upon that. It's like you use it as a toolbox to make bolt action to exactly what you want it to be. That means there's going to be potential for competitive play here, and there's going to be potential for making some truly immersive games. And that is something that is the most relevant, the most important thing when it comes to tabletop games. Because you need to have that immersion. You need to have that extra level, that thing that draws you into the game. Because otherwise, you might as well go and play a video game. The imagination is what keeps tabletop games so good. And if it gets too bland and it gets too same and it gets too cookie cutter, then that imagination, that immersion gets broken. And it becomes, well, less interesting. But having all of these tools in this toolbox can just add so many levels, so many layers, so many potential ways of immersing yourself in the game. Now, I am wanking this off quite a lot, I'm not going to lie, but and we haven't seen them yet. Maybe Warlord Games hype them up, but maybe there's not that much. We'll see. But knowing Warlord, I think there's going to be a lot of optional rules here. Some are going to be balanced, some aren't going to be balanced, some are going to be very specific, some are going to be wide-ranging. And I think this has got the greatest potential from anything we've seen so far, anything that's been revealed so far. This has got the greatest potential. But of course, all of that is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I am very excited by these new rules. All of them that have been revealed, I think, have been real hits, real good ones. But what do you guys think? Do you like Fieldcraft? Do you like Engineers? What do you think about the anti-tank gun? Too strong, not strong enough, a necessary balance? Get those thoughts down in that comment section and let's see what the community is thinking about all this. If you enjoyed today's video, please go ahead and smash that like button. I know it's a little cringe asking for likes, but it makes such a huge difference with boosting this video with the YouTube algorithm. And considering that we mostly cover 40k on this channel, every like is so important on these bolt action videos because it really does help them do well. And if you want to see more bolt action content, then go ahead and subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously, guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video. And of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.